Coming up next on the CHGO Cubs podcast, presented by Toyota. Well, here it is. Free agency begins as players can start signing with their teams this afternoon. The Cubs are bringing back Colin Rea. Just a small piece of the puzzle. What does that mean, and what could it signal as well? Plus, bye-bye Justin Turner, CHGO Cubs, and all the big moves coming up next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's a CHGO Cubs podcast driven by our friends at Toyota Let's Go Places, Luke Stuckmeyer and Jordan Bernfield with you on a Thursday, which just happens to be the official start of free agency because players at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday, if they want to, Kyle Schwarber could say, I'm signing with the Cubs at 4 o'clock. Kyle Tucker at 4 o'clock could say, you know what? Me too. And who else do we want?
Yeah,
Dylan Cease at 4 o'clock and say, make it a 3. We're the 3 amigos. We will wait and see how that all goes. Right now, we've got Colin Rea.
I love your optimism, Luke. Look, I don't think Kyle Tucker, there's no way he's back unless, like we were talking about last week, unless the market doesn't shake out for him the way that he thinks, and then it turns out to be something shorter term. Like, I just don't see the Cubs putting a 10-year deal together for Kyle Tucker. I mean, just not happening. But Shota's interesting. I mean, Shota, to me, a lot of people I think have read this as the Cubs don't want him back. I think that because of the complexity of that contract that he signed, it's possible that he is back. And I think that is very, I don't know how it would handicap it, but I think it's more just that the Cubs are saying, look, we take you back, just not for 3 years and $57 million. We'll take you back at 3 years and $40 million. I don't know. I'm making up numbers, but I think that's what was driving it. And as far as Ray goes, I mean, look, nice year. Nice to have him back. I thought, I think Joey said this earlier this week on your podcast. Today, the Cubs are worse than they were during the season because they've got some guys who are free agents. And if they leave and they're not replaced, obviously you don't have as good a team. So I think it's going to be interesting over the next few weeks to see what is the Cubs strategy. Are they going to make one of these big moves? Because you do feel like they're close. If they really would spend and bring in the hammer, they're close to being a team that could really challenge the Dodgers in 26.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just see. There's going to be it looks like there's going to be a lot of flexibility if as many guys leave in free agency as we think, and options aren't picked up here, and maybe qualifying offers aren't accepted or any of that stuff. It looks like there's going to be a lot of flexibility actually on this roster. That doesn't mean positions. It just means there will be spots that the Cubs are definitely going to have to fill, and they, at a nauseating rate, we can say this, the Cubs have the money to do it. Like they have the cash to do it. So here's what we know now. Like, we're going to know this Shota information that Jordan was talking about within a couple hours. It could happen live during the show. It could happen later today. Corey and Brennan will have Cubs related coming out for you tonight. They should know by then for sure. Okay. So yes, the Cubs didn't pick up their option. Yes, Shota didn't pick up his option, but the qualifying offer of $22 million. Now, I personally don't see why the Cubs wouldn't extend it. I know in the chat, a lot of people this week were saying, no way they can risk that $22 million. Listen, if he accepts it, that's exactly what they want. It's a slight overpay, but it's a one-year deal. That's what they want, is the one-year deal. It's not that they hate Shota. They can afford to expect to overpay slightly for a guy on a one-year deal. Now, you may say, overpay greatly, but it's a 1-year deal. It's not the type of thing that bothers a franchise, especially before potentially a work stoppage coming up at the end of next season.
I don't think
it would fit perfectly, a 1-year deal for Shota and the Cubs. So we'll see on that, right? But the other, and we'll get to more on it in a second, Jordan. But we got Colin Rea gets $5.5 million. That's what he'll be paid next year with a $1 million buyout on a team option for 27. So basically, the Cubs, instead of just picking up an option, said, "All right, here's an extra $500,000, and we'll keep you around." And then they turned down Justin Turner's $10 million and decided to pay him out $2 million to leave. And we'll have the Ray report card. But right now, all we know is Colin Rea is a Cub, Justin Turner is not, and Shota, stay tuned. It could change by the minute, by the second. We don't know yet, right? And I'm of the belief that I still think when this comes down to the wire, I think he's going to still be a Cub for $22 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's very possible to me because, I think it was interesting what you were saying there. I don't know that he's necessarily an overpay at $22 million. I mean, I think for a good starter, we could quibble over $2 million, but that doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, you pay more for a 1-year deal. You're going to have to pay the guy to not give him that certainty.
Correct. If you're not going to give him multiple years, $20 million or $22 million for 1 year doesn't strike me as a huge overpay. I mean, look, I think that Shota, the way it finished for Shota, has clouded a lot of people to sort of negate that for the most part in his Cubs tenure, he's been a very good starting pitcher. Now, he sort of fluctuated between elite starter and good starter, but somewhere in that mix, for most of his Cubs tenure, he sort of just, fell flat at the end because he was giving up a home run seemingly every inning that he pitched. But I do think that the totality of what you got from Shota is not that easy to replace. I mean, even in a year where he wasn't great, he still had a 1.5 WAR. And, what is that? What is the going rate for a pitcher with a 1.5 WAR? Well, I mean, I guess we're going to see, but I feel like the a 3 WAR out of him in 2024, obviously you'd feel a lot better if he had a season like that. But I do think that given that most of his tenure with the Cubs has been pretty good, if they bring him back on a 1-year qualifying offer, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And if the Cubs can't spend more money because they're paying Shota Imanaga $22 million, then we have a lot bigger problems than that. But I don't really think that's the case here.
Then it's more than a 1-hour podcast today with another one coming up in just a bit. I'm glad our guy Gary Ross is here in the live YouTube chat here at the all-new CHGO Cubs YouTube channel, because Gary's got his finger on the pulse. And Gary says Cubs need guys that throw heat, not soft stuff. And I agree. I think we both do with Gary. They need a better mix of guys that throw gas like we saw in both series that they played in the postseason. But I also would point out they also need depth, and they also need arms, and way more arms than they have. So I'm always afraid to pull one of the better pitchers off of that mix if I can at least offer him 22 million. I can't guarantee that he's going to take it.
Yeah.
He might turn it down, and then I can still negotiate with him just like every other team. But if I lose him, I get that compensation pick. I don't think the risk of 22 million is too bad. Like, the biggest problem the Cubs had at the end of the season was their pitching staff. It's not that they didn't throw hard enough. That was true too, but it was that they weren't deep enough. They didn't have enough guys to withstand what they had. They couldn't find a guy to pitch Game 5. They looked at Shota and were like, nah, he's not pitching well enough. So, but that doesn't mean he's not good enough to be your 4th or 5th starter next year if everything's perfect, right?
Yeah, no.
Look at Colin Rea. We're paying him $5.5 million. Well, does he throw hard? No. Does he give you good value at $5.5 million? Yes. They hoped he wasn't going to have to. Craig Counsell came out and said flat out, I hope he doesn't have to pitch for us this year. He said that in an interview. Well, it turned out he pitched a lot. You know how much he pitched? second most innings of anybody on the Cubs team. So that's why I'm always afraid to be like, okay, let's not. I want the Cubs to do exactly the opposite of what it seems like's going on, right? Like, I don't want the nickel and diming of the rotation. I want them to be creative and just start stockpiling these guys, even if they can't afford them for the whole season. Because if you do it and you're good, you can trade how many ever you could trade 4 of them if you want to at the trade deadline. If you don't think Tyone would be tradable at the end of a contract at the deadline, somebody would give you something, especially if you've got 4 other options that might be better than Tyone. If you get to the end of this deal with Shota and it's $22 million, and you can say, you know what? We don't really need him, but you're desperate for starting pitching. We'll give him to you. We'll eat a little bit of the salary. Now give us one of your prospects, right? Like, I want the Cubs to go that route. Get excessive with your starting pitching. Get grossly excessive. Be like somebody on the North Shore just collecting cars. That's what I want the Cubs to do, because you know what? You can sell these cars for equal value at the midway point of the season. If it all goes that way, and if it doesn't, okay, you're the Cubs. You can afford to eat some of them, especially if you can do them on one-year deals. So we'll get to some of those guys that I'm talking about, but that's what I hope happens here with Shota. We'll see. Maybe it happens during the show. Maybe it happens later. Do you want to get to the Rea report card? Because as I was saying, I think he was a safety net for the Cubs, right? Like a former Cubs prospect who was a safety net, had a couple of good seasons with the Brewers, so Counsell knew him. I think he did exactly what they wanted him to do this year. In fact, actually, he did more, because Counsell said we didn't even want him to pitch. We just want him to be a swing man there, to occasional start, maybe a little help in the bullpen. And he's just a guy that we bring out to save our arms. Instead, he throws 100 and almost 60 innings for the Cubs, second on the team. Okay, that describes your problem right there. Yeah. But it also shows that you could depend on him. And this is like the 3rd or 4th now straight dependable season for Colin Rea. So do I like getting him back at 5.5 with a $1 million buyout on the following season? Yeah, it's not sexy at all. I mean, there's no sexiness to it. There's no sick drip here, right? There's no hot merch on this thing, but like, it plays. It's what you need in baseball right now. You need arms that you can count on. Even if you're not thinking, this guy fits into our starting 5 in the beginning of the season. I hope he doesn't. I pray to all that is holy. Please don't let him be in the starting 5 when the season starts, because I don't want there being an injury that causes that. And I don't want the rotation to be so thin that Colin Rea is the starting pitcher. But if I'm looking for a grade of what this guy did for me just this year in 2025, it was a cheap contract. He was second in innings, and he kept his ERA below 4. What don't you like about that? For me, It's not an A, because there's nothing, he's not striking anybody out, but he's eating innings. He's saving your team. And when you desperately needed him, he was there to throw. I'll give him a B. I think that's listen, I did backflips for B's in school. Backflips. B stood for backflips if I got one on my report card. So I'm happy with a B. I'm not going to go out crazy and say the guy's an A, and I'm not going to say he's a D because he doesn't match up to other starters in Major League Baseball. But for what the Cubs paid him and the role that they looked at, he's one of these guys that exceeded projections for the Cubs, where Jed went, ooh, exceeding projections. That's my kind of guy. Now, whether or not he'll be able to do that for you again, I don't know. But at 5.5, really, what are your expectations and projections for next season?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that I gave him a B- only because, and that's not necessarily a bad grade. I just think that he's probably like 80 out of 100 pitcher, right? I mean, he's not a great pitcher. He's not a bad pitcher. He definitely exceeded expectations and projections. I think that he did a nice job for the most part when the Cubs needed him. He threw 160 innings almost. He made 27 starts. So reliability and the fact that he was able to go out there every 5th day is of value. I think that it was illuminated that he's not a great pitcher when he had to be your Game 5 starter in Milwaukee. And even though he pitched fine, he's not who you'd want to put out there. I mean, look, Gary's point is well taken. The Cubs need to add velocity to their rotation. There's no question that that needs to happen. And it was further made obvious in the postseason when Craig kept going to Palencia early on because he was thinking, I need 100-mile-an-hour hammers to throw at these guys as much as possible early on in games to change the tone. So, yes, the Cubs have to add velocity. But, like, could Colin Rea, in a perfect scenario, I think that, Theo used to always talk about how you need like 10 starters to get through a season. And I think that one of the things that is going to be a talking point, given what we just saw in the World Series, is starting pitching is still the currency that is the most valuable, right?
Yep.
So if the Cubs have 9 or 10 viable starters, no, Colin Rea shouldn't be near the top of that list. But if he's not, because they have the depth, is he a fine 6th inning option or guy that you can bring in if the starter goes short? Yeah. So, like, he's decent. That's it. He's 35. He's decent. He did better than I thought. Honestly, I thought when they signed him, it was going to be of little to no impact. So the fact that he had as much impact as he did, good on Colin Rea. He's a B-minus pitcher, but a solid B-minus pitcher.
Hey, a B- is still a B. That's what I told my parents every single semester.
That's right.
All right, we're just getting started here on the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Toyota. We will talk more about Colin Rea. We'll talk about the possibilities of free agency. Who are they? Who do you want? Let us know in the live YouTube chat as we honor some of our sponsors here at CHGO. Hey, Cubs fans, Toyota has 25 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. The RAV4 has legendary versatility. The Grand Highlander's adult-size third row is for real, and the Tacoma's wild side comes standard. From job sites to campsites and game nights, they've got an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive Toyota to get you there in style and safely. Find yours at toyota.com or visit your Chicagoland Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. This is the perfect time to be a CHGO diehard. If you aren't, you're going to want to sign up. Upgrade that Phantom of yours today. Get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts on merch and events, plus access to our Discord lounge. Listen, the Bears might be a playoff team. The Bulls are in first place. The Blackhawks are improving. And the Cubs, here's free agency. It's going to get hot and heavy. Go to allchgo.com for the latest information on how you can join the thousands of diehards already in our community. We want to connect on an even greater level with you. All right, Bet365. With the Bet365 early payout offer on NFL games, you're a winner if your team goes up by 17 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. Download the app and use the code CHGO365 when you sign up. There are other NFL offers, and they're great too. Thursday Night Football. Maybe you want to use this tonight. A $10 safety net bet. Monday Night Football, they've got a 50% super profit boost token on same game parlays, 100% parlay boost. Download the app, use the code CHGO365 when you sign up. And breaking news from 365, playoff season is here. New customers now get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up and use that code CHGO365. Deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed at 1-800-GAMBLER in-app only. All right, we're less than an hour till those qualifying offers have to be in to players for Major League Baseball, and then free agency starts at 4 o'clock Central Time. Players can start signing. That's as we're doing this live. So we may know by the end of this show exactly what's happening. Hopefully we do. If we don't, Brendan and Corey will have Cubs related coming up tonight. Now, keep in mind, whether it's, first of all, Kyle Tucker is going to get a qualifying offer and he's going to turn it down and the Cubs will get a pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that is it like the media turn down? Like, do they hand him the paper and then just say, check this box that you've turned it down?
Yeah. I mean, the best thing that could ever happen to the Cubs is Kyle Tucker accepts a qualifying offer to play on next year. Like that would be amazing.
Unbelievable.
Shota Imanaga is maybe a little more cloudy of a situation, but as I said, I would be totally open to it, and I think that would be ideal for the Cubs. I don't know about Shota, but Bruce Levine I saw tweeted out today. Well, he could always accept a qualifying offer, and then if there's a work stoppage, go back and pitch in Japan and double down. Okay. I don't think that's
Yeah.
super likely, but he could do that if he wanted to. I think there will be enough market that he probably won't come back for 22 million. So you would at least get the pick. That's just my thought. I think there'll be enough market for Shota based on what we just talked about in the first segment of the show. Pitching is a premium in baseball. And I don't know that anybody wants to give Shota 3 for 57 or more. Like, I don't know that that's coming. So where is that sweet spot with him? Well, we're going to find out. We're definitely going to find out about that. And, you said Colin Rea in the first segment, Jordan, you were talking about Colin Rea, said, the Cubs were looking, they need guys that can throw hammers. Bring in the hammer. He's not a hammer guy. You're right. He's more of like, I got a pocket knife, a wrench, and a rock in my pocket. And if it's good enough to get you out, it's not going to strike you out, but you'll swing at it and I'll get you. And you know what? I'll get you to the next inning. That's who Colin Rea is. He's a little dependability. He's got a slingshot. He's got a rock. He's got a pocket knife. He's not going to do real damage, but he still could be good enough to help you out.
Yeah, look, he did a nice job.
You like the guy with the pocket knife and the slingshot.
Yeah, I thought I saw John Heyman, Luke, on Marquee being interviewed, and I thought that he put this well. He said, the Cubs have a good rotation, just not a championship rotation.
Yeah.
And he's right. The Cubs have, look, if Shota's back or they replace him with a starter of similar level,
then they're still short pitchers.
They're still short of having a real, look, Cade Horton was great at the end of the year, but I think we still have no idea what to expect of him in 2026. I'd like to believe that he's going to be great, but he's still a young pitcher. And sometimes, as we've seen over the years, young pitchers burst onto the scene and can have a lot of success right away. And then teams have seen enough video on them and can make necessary adjustments. So I'm not saying that he won't be good. I just think that some areas of the fan base need to pump the brakes on he's our ace now, right? So I think that they probably still need a top of the rotation type pitcher. I think Horton hopefully can factor in as a very good pitcher. I would like to think that Justin Steele, who in the past has shown glimpses that he might be that kind of a pitcher, to return from Tommy John and to be fully healthy, but I don't know exactly what the timeline is going to be once they get back to spring training, though I know he's been throwing. But you need waves. You need waves of this. And yes, they need more velocity across the board. If I'm the Cubs this offseason, I think they need a big-time bat and they need a big-time starting pitcher. If you put both of those things on the team going into 2026, I feel very good about actually challenging for the division. And also, I feel a lot better about, assuming they make the playoffs, being able to win more than a wild card series, right? So these, to me, these are the stated goals. They have to get a real bona fide starter, and they need to get a real bona fide hitter to replace the alleged bona fide hitter that is going to be leaving the team for somebody else. He was bona fide for 3 months, and then it just, that was the end. So
I agree with you, but that's still sort of, even doing that, and it sounds good to me, even doing that, it sort of takes them back to if they were 100% healthy and everything went the way it went last year, it sort of takes them back to where they were, right? Like, was the slugger. Now, don't forget, that was good enough to have the best record in baseball. Now, whether or not that would have played out in the postseason, I don't know, because injuries do happen. So, yeah, if you add a slugger, they're probably not adding one as I don't know if they're adding one as big as Tucker or Schwarber. If they do, okay, then they're sort of replacing what Tucker did when he was healthy, which was great.
Yes.
Okay. If they add a pitcher, is that pitcher going to give you more than what healthy, good Shota is? Like, I still am scared of the possibility that most of Shota's second half and postseason problem was the hamstring. And if that's the case, he might go somewhere and really make you look bad.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
how could you let that guy go? What were you thinking? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still willing to take that gamble, but you have to replace somebody with someone of his ilk and then probably one more than that. So this is the world I live in. In my fantasies, they go and get somebody like Cease, okay?
Yeah.
And or they make a trade for somebody with the Marlins, or they make a trade. I mean, perfect world, they trade everybody for Skubal. That's me, okay?
Yeah.
But let's lower our expectations. We can dream about Skubal later in the show if you want. But like, say it's Cease. You sign Cease. Now you have Cease, Horton, Boyd. You hope Steele comes back. And now if you're at the point where Tyone is your 5 and Colin Rea is your 6, but what if Shota's back at 22? And now you're looking at that mix of guys and saying, wow, again, if we're healthy and everybody's rolling at the end, I can take one of these guys and I can move them. I
Right.
can move them for
Right.
whatever I need. If I don't, then I just hang on to them because none of them are going to be. Cease would be the highest paid guy. There's no crazy contract in that. And there's still plenty of question marks. Right now, the most known commodity that you have in your rotation is Tyone. You don't know if Boyd's arm's going to bounce back after that season, the way he's had injuries. You sure hope he
No.
does. You don't know if Horton can repeat that. I think he can. I sure hope he does. But Tyone is the known commodity in the middle of that rotation for one more year.
Yeah, I mean, look, and Tyone is a good pitcher. He's not a great pitcher. When he's healthy, he's an innings eater. He's a solid guy to have. But I think that what you said illuminates the fact that they need to go get a real starter, because Jamison Tyone is your most reliable option going into 26 is not a playoff team. And not. I mean, look, the 2 years before they won the wild card this year, they were an 83 win team. And so if we want to, the biggest difference from 24 to 25 was, one, they added what is supposed to be a 5-WAR player in Tucker, who for a lot of the season was performing at that level. They got way more than they would have thought out of Pete Crow Armstrong. I think that they also got more than they would have thought out of Nico Horner. There were several guys on this team, Bush, that overperformed their projections. But it's easy, Luke, to do this exercise with other guys and say, well, look, Owen Casey's a top prospect, and so is Mo Baller, and maybe those guys combine for 2.5 WAR apiece, and then you've replaced Kyle Tucker's WAR, and look, there's a lot of ways that you can talk yourself into the depth of the Cubs being good enough to rise above. I don't buy it because I don't think that the Cubs have elite talent and they need to get it. And it's expensive and it's going to make Tom weep, but you can't win with a team of very goods. You need superstars. Okay. Like we were saying last week, the fact is, a lot, and I heard John Smoltz say this, and I've heard some of these other people say, well, Milwaukee and Toronto are very similar. They're not.
Not at all.
Because Toronto has Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who cost them $500 million. But you know what? They almost won the World Series and should have won it 7 times.
Because of him.
So, and this isn't me saying that the Cubs haven't done a pretty good job of developing pretty good talent, but pretty good gets you to 90 wins and lose in the wild card series. Pretty good doesn't beat the Dodgers and doesn't beat the Blue Jays.
Jordan, at one point we were happy to go and avoid losing 100 games. We were happy to just be above that mark in the rebuild. Then you got to 83 twice, and you were like, bleh. The second time around, I can't handle that, dry heat. Don't want to have it. Now you've gone to the postseason, you've tasted it, you've won around, and you've moved on. Even 90 doesn't do it for me anymore. Like it just doesn't. Winning the division doesn't do it for me next year. Forget the Brewers. Yes, you have to leap over them, but you don't have to leap over them. You have to jump on top of them, squash them, and act like you're the Blue Jays or the Dodgers with the big boys. That's what you have to do. You have to have star players. Couldn't agree with you more. And I agree with Gary in the chat who's been saying, listen, you can't count on Steele. He said that not until June. Gary, I don't even know about June. Like, look, that's what they're telling me. I've seen him throw a ball. That's all terrific. I don't know. I'm not going to count on Steele for anything next year. I hope he's there. I hope he's great. But he could be just like a lot of guys who don't pitch well for the first year or so after Tommy John, and this is his second. So he's in a perfect world. He's part of your rotation, and he's great, and he's back. But you can't count on that. I have a list of guys that I saw on CBS Sports. We're going to go through them here on the CHGO Cubs podcast in just a minute. Tell us what's your dream scenario on the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Toyota. What time is it? Game time. The Game Time app gives you the advantage right back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's really easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust that you're going to get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. You don't want the old switcheroo on you. That's something you don't want to have. Listen, doesn't matter what you're looking at. Maybe you're looking at Bears tickets coming up for the rest of the season because you're like, I believe in this team. I got to get there. Waiting till the last minute is always the best time to buy your tickets. Priority fees included, your total up front with no surprise fee at checkouts. You can get zone deals. Let Game Time choose your section and choose the seats. Seat views, that's super important. You got to have that panoramic view. So make sure you know what your seat's going to look like. Take guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app. Use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Tap ticket and go. Download Game Time today. You know that feeling you get when you're like, oh man, oh no, I left my sunglasses. I think they're on the roof of the car or at the beach or they're in a gas station 3 states away. We've all been there. Now, I've done it way too many times, and my kids like to get a hold of my sunglasses and break them by accident. But then I found Shady Rays that changed the game. Sunglasses made for real life, seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupid expensive. The wild part is if you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays is going to send you a brand new pair, no guilt trip, just replacement. So now I wear my sunglasses without fear. The kids can play with them if they have to, on hikes, at concerts, on a boat. Shady Rays Eyewear has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code CHGO for 35% off. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by 300,000 people. Back on the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by our friends at Toyota. We are going to still sit here and wait. Will Shota get the qualifying offer? How's that all going to unfold? Well, there are ways to look at this through a little brighter lens, okay? We can still dream because all the names aren't off the board. Cease isn't gone. Schwarber isn't gone. Tucker isn't gone. None of the big names are gone. Nobody's signed yet. So this is our Shady Rays Future is Bright segment. Let's put on our rose-colored glasses, explain to the people why Future is Bright, brought to you by Shady Rays. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code CHGO at checkout for those 35% off those polarized sunglasses. So I put on my Shady Rays. Or in this case, I'm putting on my readers from Walgreens. Not as good, okay? And I'm sitting here, and I was glancing at, everybody wants to put out a list now of all the free agents so we can all look at it. And when it's clickbait, we all click on it, all right? So I decided, let's just go with, there's no rhyme or reason for why this is the one I looked at. It's just the last one I looked at. CBS Sports put out their top free agents, okay? And then they gave you 3 teams that could be in the running for it. I don't know I don't know if they have any insight or inside scoop or anything. These are just the 3 teams. First, it was a little depressing, so I needed my rose-colored glasses from Shady Rays. The number 1 free agent, Kyle Tucker, leaving the Cubs, going to have a qualifying offer, and he's the number 1 free agent. They have the Dodgers, Phillies, and Yankees, okay? And then I saw our buddy Dom Frederick, director of morale, point out that Fangraphs has the projection at 8 years, $280 million. Before we get to the rest of the list, Dom is like, well, if it's 8 for 280, the check should be in the mail. It should be over. It should be a done deal. The Cubs should have already picked it up. Do you agree with that? Is that if the Cubs could actually bring back Tucker for 8 years, 280,
I think I would do that.
I would run to the bank with that.
35 a year. Yeah, for sure. I would do that. I mean, look, I think part of what, as a fan and as somebody who covered the team and covered baseball for a long time, gets part of what irks me is that when people write these articles today where they throw out these numbers and people run with it on social media, but I'm like, well, where did this number come from?
Yeah,
I'm not trying to call out the person that is most frequently doing it. However, when he writes this stuff and says Kyle Tucker's going to get $600 million at, whatever it was 6 months ago, I'm like, from who? Like, sorry, he's not that kind of player. So I think that a lot of the issue with the Kyle Tucker free agency has already happened before it started, because people have been putting these wild expectations on the market for Tucker. Now, I think Tucker, when healthy, is obviously an excellent player, but objectively, he has been hurt several times in recent years. I think that there is, for any team that wants to acquire him, some level of pause, because there is inherent risk in signing him. So an 8-year deal at $280 is still a big risk, and it might be what he's been worth the whole time. But I think that we're all looking at it like, oh, that's a steal, because the expectation was sent that, he was going to get $500+ million because Guerrero got it. They're not even close to the same player. So, like, I think that the years would make me swallow hard. However, I mean, at $35 million a year, if healthy, that's probably what Kyle Tucker would be worth on the open market.
If he's healthy, he's worth every penny of that and more. Yeah. Then if he's healthy, he's more worth what Gary's talking about, all the sites that say 400, right? Like, he just is. But that does give me pause. The only thing I'll say about the injuries that could make the Cubs look foolish is that none of the injuries are chronic stuff. He doesn't have a history of a bad back. He doesn't have history of like blown ACLs. He hasn't, you know what I mean? Like, stuff that is going to really slow down a player. It's been a bunch of random stuff. And so if it's just a blip on the window, like blip on the radar, 2 years where it was kind of scattered play, I don't think you ignore it. So I would guess, this is just me, we should just start throwing our numbers out there. I'm going to say he's going to get between 280 is going to be the low mark, is my guess. 280 and 400, like in that range, could I say? Sure. Or 250, and I don't think he's going over 400. I don't think that's but it's interesting that they don't even link the Cubs to that. And I would say, in a perfect world, everybody's healthy. He's still got to be the best player, and they agree with that. Number 1 free agent. Now, the number 2 free agent is Schwarber. Okay, Phillies, Padres, Braves. Again, the Cubs not even on the radar for that one. I don't know what the deal would be. I would love to have either one. Just for emotional reasons, I would say bring Schwarber back. His fallback is that he doesn't play a position.
Yes. Can I say
Tucker's fallback is, I don't know if he's going to be healthy. I'll run the risk I'll take Schwarber having a few too many beers and maybe outplaying his body a little bit, and he's still slugging homers, but he strikes out a little bit more the older he gets. That's what guys, he's up for MVP. He hit 56 home runs. Like, he's worth every penny. Bring Schwarber back.
He hit 56 home runs playing no defense and putting up a 4.7 WAR with no defense. So, I mean, look, I love Schwarber. One of the things that I've wondered, Luke, I'm curious what you think. Because Schwarber is a DH, and again, this is not me saying he's one of my all-time favorite Cubs. Love Schwarber. But because he is a DH and he's going to be 33, and if you sign him, he's really not going to be a viable player to put in the outfield or at first base. I mean, you would in a pinch, but you really are sort of locked into him.
He's not our backup catcher.
Right. So would that bring his market down? No. You don't think so?
No, because I think, like, that's what the teams will try to say. And his agent will say, well, how many guys are hitting 56 home runs? Isn't this game all about home runs now? How many guys hit 56 home runs? How many guys have a guy that hits 56 home runs and runs around the bases, and everybody on the team is like, let's jump on this guy's back. He's Superman. Let's get on his back. The great Schwarbino rounding the bases. The fan base is in love. I would guess that it's 90% that he goes back to Philly. I think he loves it there. They love him there. They still want to do it. How do you do it without Schwarber? How do you tell your fan base we got outbid by the Mets or somebody in your division? I just don't see it happening. And he cried about his teammates after they lost. I don't think he was crying because he was like, that's it. I'm gone. I'm never going to be back in Philly. I think he cried because he knew it was going to be not a different group of teammates, and it was a great opportunity, and he thought this was their year. But I also think everything given the same money-wise, that Philly might be his actual desired option. Now, they had in Phillies, Padres, Braves. Okay, I mean, the Braves are going to be back, and the Padres, does everybody just put the Padres no matter what because they spend money? The first player that the Cubs are mentioned for in signing a top-tier free agent is who they rank number 12, and that's the right-handed pitcher from Japan, Tatsuya. I think it's Imei, but I'm not sure, okay? Forgive me. 192 ERA, mid-90s velo, Yankees, Mets, Cubs. So wouldn't it be something if you say goodbye to Shota and you bring in another Japanese pitcher, but one that throws with a little more gas, okay? Had some control problems, but throws with a little more gas, so fits the profile. Okay, fine. I can't say whether it's a good move or not, just like I had no idea whether Shota was going to be a good move or not. But there's ways to move this around, and as free agency gets started, there's still is Bregman a better option at third so that you can trade Shaw or move Shaw to super utility guy, right?
Yeah.
And develop him then that way until you're ready to make a decision on Nico and where he goes. Could Nico play left field when Hap leaves the team probably in 1 year? You know what I'm saying? Like our players, do they think players have that type of flexibility? Nico played short. You play short, you can play most places.
Yeah. Look,
I've shown us that.
These are interesting questions. I think, Luke, that when you look at these lists, one of the reasons why the Cubs are not going to be listed for most of these free agents is that until they go out and sign a top-tier free agent, there's going to be skepticism among these people that make these lists about the Cubs' interest in any of them. Now, could I see them being interested in Imei or however you say his name? Yeah.
Because Emmy sounds good.
Because, I know that Jed, has made a few trips to Japan in recent years. They do a lot of scouting in Japan. I think that they took a lot of pride in being able to sort of discover Shota and bring him here. And I think that the infrastructure has been friendly for Japanese players in the Cubs organization. So I could certainly see them doing that. But I also think that, the Cubs have the money to get any of these guys that they want to. And it's just a matter of spending it to get those players. And again, we can go back to, well, if Casey does this and Ballesteros does that, and if Shaw gets, makes another step forward and blah, 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 then it's an 87-win team. That's what it is. That's what over the last 3 years we have seen that it probably is. And I love PCA, and I hope that next year PCA is able to build on the 30-30 season that we had. But we really don't know what he's going to do in 2026. So they can't rely on the same offensive output from PCA because I think he exceeded that projection by so much. So to me, when we look at the free agency discussion, it's less about, quote, replacing Kyle Tucker and more about improving in several areas, both on the offensive side and then in the pitching side, so that they are projectably a better, more risk-averse team, period, end. And it's not, well, if, Porter Hodge turns into John Wetland in 1996, then man, it's going to be great. I mean, like
Sure.
you can't build a team that way. The Cubs sort of are trying to do it that way, but that doesn't put you in the World Series.
No. And the other guy that we know won't be back is Justin Turner.
Yeah,
Understandable.
I love him.
I would hope that, the $2 million buyout maybe convinces him I'd like to be a bench coach.
Yeah.
Or, or come and be part of that staff somehow. Maybe he wants to be an infield coach or an outfield. It doesn't matter to me.
Like
I
Kevin
wouldn't mind him
Youkilis.
being part of the staff, but okay. So
Yeah.
Turner's gone, right? And he definitely did not exceed projections for this year. He didn't exceed our hopes and wishes and dreams.
He
was
didn't
pretty
walk
much
off
what we
home
thought
run.
he was at the end of his deal, at the end of his career, right?
Yeah.
So Max Muncy was a dream for Joey and I, that somehow the Dodgers would get so greedy that they would put Pete Alonso as their Max Muncy, right? Or they would get Eugenio Suárez as their Max Muncy. And they would let Muncy slip through their fingers because they don't care about money, and the Cubs could turn Max Muncy into their Justin Turner, but play him a lot more, right? Okay, well, he's staying. They picked up the option. He's staying. So now how are they going to upgrade that? I hope you're not just going to say, well, Willie Castro would fill that role for me. Let's sign Willie Castro in free agency, or I don't know what the answer is, but I looked at that, and the next guy on that list from CBS Sports was number 14 free agent, according to CBS Sports, was Eugenio Suárez. Angels, Padres, and there it is, Cubs. Now, 49 home runs, attractive. Third base, doesn't play it very well, but if you kept Shaw, he could be your DH. And he also, Eugenio Suárez, could be your DH if Tucker leaves, Seiya stays in right, Suárez becomes your DH, Shaw's at third. Is that better than what the Cubs had at the end of the season? Yes, because Tucker was hurt and not playing well. Is it better than what the Cubs had last year when Tucker was healthy? No, I don't believe so. It's probably somewhere in between there, but it's definitely going to be a shorter-term deal. So Suárez is a name to just kind of keep an eye on. I think other teams, everybody values power. He's had a couple big home run, but he's also not very good defensively. And once he stops hitting, which I think will be long before Kyle Schwarber does, his value will plummet for some team. But he can play a couple positions, just not very well. Okay.
Yeah.
And I started going through a list. I don't know who the other guy is going to be for that type of position. Now, I saw Verlander on there, and I thought, well, he's the other names that were on there for the Cubs that they said, oh, Cubs could be in on this, was Zach Gallen at 18 and Justin Verlander at 26. Those were the only other names in this big group of players that they listed. Verlander I could see because, hey, why not? Why not roll the dice? He still strikes out a lot of guys. You still saw that you could get some value out of Scherzer or somebody in the postseason. Now, I don't want Justin Verlander as my number 3 starter. Don't mishear what I'm saying. I want Justin Verlander as my number 6, number 7. The guy's on the team, but he's sort of like Kershaw was on the Dodgers last year. And if guys are hurt and I need someone that I can throw into a playoff game, I'm not afraid to put Justin Verlander in there because of what he's made up of, what his career has been. Would not be expensive. I think he'll go to I think he'll end up signing with a team that's more confident they can win it. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in Detroit to finish his career as that same exact role that we're talking about. But interesting that his name's on there. Suárez, Verlander. I mean, none of the names scream we won the offseason.
No, well, but
which is what I'm afraid we're going to say at the end of the offseason.
Yeah, but I think that part of that, Luke, is because of the age of the players, right? I mean, if you sign Justin Verlander, he's 43. Okay, so
but a 1-year deal, another thing the Cubs would love because they could just clear the books at the end of the season.
Correct,
down to 0 almost.
Yes, I'm so sick of hearing that from them. But yes, they would do that, and then I think that if they were to add him, you're right. He's probably like the seventh guy, and he's a voice to help some of the younger pitchers, and whatever you get out of him is a bonus if you get anything out of him. I think when it comes to Suarez, he's going to be 34 next year. So he had 49 home runs this past season, which was great, except that the previous time that he had hit that many homers was 2019. He's mostly in the last 4 or 5 years been somewhere in the 30 home run range. And so Wrigley, look, I feel like Geno Suarez is hitting 960 in his career at Wrigley Field, or at least it certainly feels like that.
Cubs
However,
killer, for sure.
Yes. However, does it mean at age 34 that if you were to sign Geno Suarez, you're looking at a guy that really is probably a 25 to 30 homer guy, which is better than Matt Shaw. He's not better defensively, but it's better offensive production than Matt Shaw. And so
you would trade Shaw, or you'd actually play him at third?
I think that I would use Shaw defensively. I'd use him as a utility guy. Look, unless they have to trade him, I don't see a reason to trade him unless there's a big player to acquire.
Yes.
To bring in. But
I'm not taking Shaw third unless it's Bregman.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm not taking all that. Like Bregman, I would do that. Like Jordan, at this point, this much we can say. Suarez, or I know Gary and a lot of people say Okamoto, the guy from Japan who's only 29. Like, I've never seen him play, so I have no idea if he's the right fit. But maybe the Cubs have a better feel for that. Just talking about Suarez, it's clear if you could upgrade this team in a spot offensively, that Justin Turner role is a spot where you can greatly upgrade for not like a massive amount of money. Like, he'd be okay to fill in and spell Shaw, who you could still let develop at third base, so he could play some third for some days if you need him to. He can be your DH sometimes. You probably could play him at first base every once in a while if you need him to, right? Like, there's ways to mix him around, and even if he hits 20 home runs, it's going to be way more than what Justin Turner gave you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a perfect fit. I'm just saying that is a place where the Cubs should be looking to greatly upgrade this season.
I agree. I mean, look, the Cubs have several areas in which they can upgrade. I think that the complicator here is that the Cubs are trying to make this similar to what it was 10 years ago, where they're trying to say, look at this nucleus of talent that we've developed with Horner and Bush and Swanson and Happ and, all these guys, and PCA and Shaw. These are all guys that we either acquired or developed and brought to the major leagues and turned them into what they are. And again, they're good players. They're good. They're just not like, I think if you told me next year Pete Crow Armstrong is a superstar for the year and not just the first half of the year, that would make me feel a lot better about building from within, because you've got a developed superstar. But because of his plate approach and because of how much his production fell from July through September, I'm not ready, and I think most people are not ready to make that assumption yet. So I think until, look, the best scenario for the Cubs would be to draft and develop, or acquire at the beginning and develop a superstar. It's just really hard to do. And my concern for the Cubs is that this offseason and next offseason are critical, because now that you've been in the playoffs and you've won the 90 games and you won the wild card round and you got to the division series, you either can improve upon that to take the next step, or this becomes a blip, right? This becomes a blip. If you don't address things properly, then you end up next year with 85 wins and a bunch of people wringing their hands going, how did they not take the next step? Well, they have the chance to do it. I understand that in 26 there's going to be a lockout and this is going to complicate things. But you know what? They are playing the 2026 season.
Yes.
So if they're going to play it, you might as well try to win.
Yeah.
Period.
Why not? It still counts. Heck, people still count the 2020 season. We only played 60 games. I don't count it, but everybody else wants to count the Dodgers win. Scenarios, at the end of the postseason, at the end of free agency, this is what the Cubs have done. Not even talking necessarily about all the trades, but, a perfect world, dream scenarios. This is the rose-colored glasses segment, Jordan. We're talking about you go ahead and you go to the Tigers and you say, all right, you don't want Skubal. You're not going to want that. Come on, let me take that off your hands. And so I'll give you Matt Shaw. I'll give you Jackson Wiggins. I'll give you Owen Casey or Alcantara. I'll give you on and on and on and on. I don't think that package is even enough. Honestly, I think the Tigers would say it's Horton or there's no deal. And then I would still do it. If they said Horton for Skubal, I would say yes, but you're not getting much else.
Yes, but you'd have to guarantee that Skubal is going to re-sign. You have to get a contract done. It's a trade and sign, basically, to borrow from the NBA. Only way,
and you're going to have to pay Skubal. You're not going to have to pay Cade Horton for a little while.
Correct.
So that's got to factor into the deal.
Yes, to me, if they could acquire Tarik Skubal, there's nobody that they have that I wouldn't mind trading to get Tarik Skubal.
Well,
I would raise my hand. The assumption that he's going to sign a 7-year extension or whatever that is.
Right. Well, the Cubs are willing to risk that sometimes. Would I trade Shaw and put him in that mix? Yes, because I can sign Bregman, and Bregman, Skubal, and Casey in right field is definitely a better team. It's a dream. It's a major upgrade to what you're talking about. But okay. So I would give up a lot of things for Skubal. I saw here's way more under the radar type of move that I can see the Cubs making in a couple weeks that I'd be like, makes sense. Remember Pierce Johnson, the Cubs draft pick?
Former draft pick, yes.
Right, the Braves let him the Braves let him go. Yeah. Didn't pick up his option at $7 million. And he had a really good season last year, and he was pretty good the year before that too. I wouldn't mind Pierce Johnson being a piece that's added to the bullpen. Strikes out like a quarter of the batters that he faces. He's got a low walk rate. Yeah. Is he a guy that I could stick in there with Ben Brown? And now we got a little more different type of throwing guy. Those are the types of moves I'm more expecting to see. I hope that's not the case. I hope those are mixed in with some big boomers from the Cubs, right? That's what I'm hopeful. We only got 2 minutes left on the podcast. And don't forget, Corey and Brennan with a podcast coming up tonight on Cubs related. Still haven't seen. I'm sitting here looking with my phone. I'm just sitting here. Come on. Show me Shota. Did they give him the QA? Did they give him the QA? Nothing. Still nothing.
Yeah, I've seen nothing as well. Also, shout out Corey and Brendan. I enjoyed the pod they did last week, just breaking down all these different projections and possibilities. Good stuff out of them. And it makes you excited for. Yeah, I'm excited for this offseason because, look, this could be a great offseason for the Cubs. If they do it right, we could look at them and go, well, geez, this is a 95-win team. Or it could go the other way. Understandably, we're all looking at it to go the other way because Tom has to prove he's willing to spend more than $180 million on a player. And once they do that, then it's going to change expectations for the team. But until then, people are going to continue to remain skeptical.
By the way, I'd be all in on Joe Ryan trade too. But another guy that was on that CBS list was Brad Keller. And who's likely to want him? Every contending team in baseball.
Yeah.
Well, we might have seen the end of Brad Keller in a Cubs uniform, if that's true, because that means heavy bidding. And
what would you really pay for
with that? Because his arm might be rubber by next year.
Yeah. What would you pay for him though? Honestly, I
don't know.
Brad Keller's good, but if someone's going to give him $40 million, I'd be like,
I would need a thank you I would likely need a thank you discount if every team's in on him.
Yeah. Thank you for making me
for resurrecting my career. Here's the discount. All right. Keep it tuned here for news on Shota. We'll have it on social media. We'll tweet it out as soon as we see it too. And Corey and Brendan are going to be talking about it much, much more coming up on the Cubs related podcast. Thanks to Jordan for hopping in today. Always appreciate it. Good signal for the internet for everybody. We're all good there. Thanks to Sarah for running the 1s and 2s back home. And
shout out
everybody
to my
in the live
power
YouTube
for not going out.
That's right. Gary, Becky, everybody, all the regulars in the chat. We're happy to see you, and thanks for watching the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Toyota. Free agency is here. We're just getting started. We're going to be here every day with you until the next big breaking story or emergency podcast, or tonight with Cubs related. Thanks for watching, and fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.